Hey, in this video, we're going to be making this mobile tic-tac-toe game. It can be made out of entirely scrap wood, and you really only need a piece that is about 10 inches long, 2x6 preferably, if not something a little bigger. But yeah, it can be made in about an hour or less. Let's go. So the majority of this project, in fact, 99% of it is going to be done at the table saw. All of the cuts will be done at the table saw. So take your piece of wood, and what we're going to try to do is get it down to 5 1/4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. I have already basically planed this down to ensure that the crown has been eliminated from the board, and I've already straightened one edge. But set our fence here to 5 1/4. And again, we want this to be perfectly square, so do everything you can to take your time and get a good square cut. So I'm going to run it through here, 5 1/4, flip it or rotate it, and run it through 5 1/4 as well. And just to ensure that it's actually square, now that I know these two sides are parallel to each other, I'm going to use this against my miter gauge to square up one side, use that side to reference on the fence. And the reason I'm doing this is because I know that my miter gauge is 90 degrees to the blade, so I can ensure that one side is square and 90 to the outside edges, and then reference that. Now that I have a perfectly square 5 1/4 by 5 1/4 inch block, I'm going to lower the blade height to a 1/16 of an inch. And what I'm using to do that is a setup block. Again, you can get these off of Amazon. I'll leave a link down below. But look, it doesn't have to be exactly a 1/16 of an inch. That's just an arbitrary measurement that I'm going to use for this project. I'm now going to set my fence to 1 3/4 inches. And it will stay this way for the next several cuts. It will stay at 1 3/4 inches with the blade height set to a 1/16 of an inch. We're going to run it through like this. We're going to rotate it, run it through like this, rotate it like this. So all 4 sides will get ran through at 1 3/4 inches. And if everything was done correctly, you should be left with this. And it's kind of hard to see, but we should have 9 equal squares that will make up our tic-tac-toe board. Now back over at the bench, I have a ruler set to 2 5/8, and we're going to mark the center of this block, both along this axis, like this, as well as this axis, like this, in the center here. You can also go ahead and mark the rest of these outer pieces. What we're trying to do is find the center of each one of these squares. And now we will reset to 7/8 and mark the other dimensions. All of our centers have now been marked. I'm going to use this spring-loaded awl to go ahead and punch center for each one of these. This thing's great, by the way. You can get it on Amazon. You don't have to use a hammer to tap anything. It's spring-loaded. Centers are now punched. And now I'm going to mark inward 7/8 of an inch from each side along one edge. And I'm going to do it on the long grain edge, not the end grain. We're not going to do anything in the center, but along the edge, I'm going to mark in 7/8 of an inch, and then I'm going to split the difference and mark it halfway. That's going to become important when we drill out our holes. And now over at the drill press, I'm going to install a 1/2 inch Forstner bit. If you don't have a Forstner bit, no problem. You can use a regular brad point bit or pretty much anything. And now I'm going to drill all of these marks just maybe like 1/8 inch deep. I don't want to drill very deep, just enough to hold the marble. I'm now going to lower my drill press table because I want to be able to stand this up on its edge. And there we go. And now naturally we're going to drill these holes out. I am going to drill them fairly deep because I want to be able to store the marbles in them holes. Okay, I now have these 2 holes as well as all the top ones drilled out, and I have given everything a quick sanding just to break the edges so there's no sharp or rough edges. I should mention though that these 2 holes I had to step up to 9/16 drill bit instead of a 1/2 inch because the marbles that I have, the diameter is a 1/2 inch and they were just too tight and wouldn't fit. Again, make sure you drill these deep enough though to where all your marbles will fit, at least 8 of them, if not 9, so you can have the full board. I'm just going to do 8 because by that point it's a draw on the game or you know who wins, right? But I have also cut a piece that is 1 inch wide and 5 inches long. And right now it's about 3/8 of an inch. I'm actually gonna sand that down even thinner. And again, this can just be scrap, but once you get it to where you want it, and I'm actually gonna round the edges a little bit, but once you get the shape and the size and the feel that you want, mark the center of it, both up and down and side to side. We're also gonna mark the center of our block up and down and side to side between these two holes. So I'm going to thin this down, sand it down to create a little bit of softness on the corners, and then we're going to pre-drill through this piece into this piece so that a screw can be installed without splitting everything. To attach this, I'm going to be using a 3/4 inch screw. It does not need to be very big. The important step here is the pre-drilling, because this is pine, it's soft material, and this is very thin and not very wide. So you have got to make sure that you pre-drill so that it does not split. The key here is pre-drill big enough to where this can spin freely, but not so big in this that your screw is loose, and now you have to upsize your screw, causing the risk of splitting even more. So we're going to start with a small bit. A little bit of a pilot hole there, and again we'll drill through this one, and then we're going to step it up one size. I believe this is an 1/8. And just FYI, I get a lot of comments on my video how I'm unsafe. I'm not saying I'm invincible from injury, but if you're not comfortable doing this stuff, which it sounds like some people may not be just based on the comments that I get, feel free to do this drilling on the drill press or any of the other methods that you know how. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing, but I do see the comments where I get a lot of hate for how unsafe I am. Okay, everything's drilled. We're gonna install this screw. I'm gonna use a drill, but I understand this can cause splitting. If you do not want to use a drill, you're more than welcome to do it with a screwdriver. I'm just going to go slow here. This piece can be fully drilled in already, and then we're just going to line up this hole and drill it in a little bit. Not to strip it out though is the big thing. So this piece can spin. And I'm just going to leave it just like that. It just needs to be enough to be able to stay in place like this so that when you put the marbles inside, they do not fall out. So let's get some marbles. When it comes to marbles, I bought this marble collection of a bunch of different colors. This whole jar right here off of Amazon. I'll leave a link down below if you're interested. If you're going to be batching these out, I think this is a great idea because there's multiple colors and you can just pick 2 colors for each set that you're selling. So for this case, I have picked 4 black and 4 yellow. So I will put the black ones in one side and the yellows in the other side. And then again, this thing can kind of just close like this, and now the marbles don't fall out. But when you're ready to play, you can take the marbles out, set up with a friend, and start playing tic-tac-toe. This project is now complete, and you may have noticed that I did not put any finish on this, and that is because in my mind, you can get super customized and creative with the finishes. For example, this can be sports team themed if you would like. You can choose marbles that match your team's colors or contrasting, or let's say you have a buddy that his and his wife are team house divided, for example. You could do 2 clashing or rival sports teams. And then as far as that's just as far as the marbles, but then as far as the paint, do the same thing. Maybe you decide to paint it almost like a checkerboard pattern or put a design on the front. Get creative with the edges. There's multiple options, so I'm not finishing it in this video. I'm just showing you how the project is built. I will not have plans available for this because I don't know that there's necessarily enough steps to make a plan set. However, I do think it would be helpful for you to have a 1-page PDF document that has the template for the layout of this. I will make that available on my website. It will show the grids for this as well as where to drill the holes with crosshairs and all that so that you can print the template, glue it on a piece of wood, and easily locate where your stuff should be. Hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, leave it a like down below. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on future videos. Take care.